So the Japanese Grand Prix for the 2026 season has been done and dusted. It's no longer news that Kimi Antonelli, the young driver from Mercedes, is the winner of that particular race, the third race of the season, a second win of the season, back-to-back races. Congratulations to Mercedes and the young man himself, who gradually puts himself in the history books of Formula One. Right there, he became the youngest ever driver to lead the championship at just 19 years. So congratulations to Kimi Antonelli, and quite a lot of things to unpack and what to get into. So Kimi finished ahead of Oscar Piastri and also Charles Leclerc for the Ferrari. So let's get to the top 10 and the overall of how the race ended. So in P4 came George Russell in the Mercedes. P5 was Lando Norris in the McLaren. Lewis Hamilton came in sixth for Ferrari. Pierre Gasly in the Alpine. Seventh, Max Verstappen in the Red Bull came in at eighth. Liam Lawson in the Racing Bulls came in at ninth. And Esteban Ocon finished 10th for the AS team. That's wrapped up the top 10 right there. In the 11th place, had Nico Hülkenberg in the Audi. Isaac Hadjar in the Red Bull at 12th. Gabriel Bortoleto in the Audi at 13th, Arvid Lindblad in the Racing Bulls at 14th, Carlos Sainz finished 15th for the Williams team, Franco Colapinto for the Alpine finished 16th, 17th came Sergio Perez for the Cadillac, Alonso, who is the father of a new baby, came in at 18th for the Aston Martin, Valtteri Bottas at 19th for Cadillac, and also Alex Albon in 20th for the Williams team. The likes of Lance Stroll couldn't finish the race, and Olivier Behrman also had a crash in the race. I think I'll start from that. I just want to be sure that Olivier Behrman is fine. He had a crash in the race at lap 22 and was trying to overtake Franco Colapinto, and I don't know what happened to the car, but the car just swerved from the left and went to the other side and hit the tire barriers. I hope he's fine right now because he was caught limping. The videos from what we could see had him limping out of the car, and I just want to believe that everything is fine with Olivier Behrman right there. So let's talk about the race itself. Kimi Antonelli had a brilliant weekend, not only just the race, from the practice session down to the qualifying rounds and to the race itself. It was a decent weekend in Japan for Kimi Antonelli. At some point, it was about 13 to 14 seconds ahead of the second placed driver, talking about Oscar Piastri. Meanwhile, Oscar Piastri, who was brilliant from the start of the race, started at the third position and finished second. At the start of the race, had a very, very decent launch from the start and was able to overtake. It was P1 at some point, but due to how the race went, was not able to clinch the first position, and also the safety car that came out later due to the crash that Olivier Behrman had just didn't go well for him, and then the strategy a bit just didn't work out well for him at that point. But he had a brilliant race. I think he was one of the drivers. For me, he was my driver of the day in that one, keeping that pace and being able to remember this same Oscar wasn't able to have anything for himself in the first two races of the season, from Melbourne, crashing at just setting up the grid, and also his team not able to kickstart his car at China. Coming into the third race and was able to still make podium finishes. It was brilliant for him, and I appreciate the work that the team has been able to do. And also Oscar himself, you could say that he's still hungry to do something for himself this season. So he had that at P2, and also Charles Leclerc. Big ups to Charles. That overtake he had on Russell at the end of towards the end of the race just sealed it for him. George Russell was coming closely to take P3 from him, but now he was able to charge the battery of the car and get that last overtake for himself and finish in podium place. That's P3 for himself, and that was brilliant for him. Already for George, well, decent race for himself, but I'm very sure he wouldn't have loved the position he finished at, which is the fourth position. And for someone who started at the second and finishing fourth, of course, it's really, really disappointing for himself. But he had a lot of complaints from the practice session, the third practice session, because the team had a little bit of tweak to his car ahead of the qualifying round, and he's been complaining ever since that, even down to the race itself. So you could say it's just a minimal glitch in this for him this weekend, and I'm very sure he'll be right back when the season gets back on the way later. He also felt gutted for himself that he wasn't able to pit under the safety car. He had already pitted before the safety car came into place, and when the safety car comes, that's when team gets to rejig or recoup, and tire gets to be changed, and the grid is now set back for race proper again. But he wasn't able to get that, and you had already pitted before the safety car came in to the race. Hamilton tried for himself, but he wasn't able to push the car into podium places for the Ferrari team. I don't know what happened, but you could already just know that something wasn't going right with the team, with his car right there at the race. Let's talk Verstappen. Already, he finished 8th in the race, started at 11th position. I was still able to get into the points for the Red Bull. He had a very torrid weekend already from the Thursday debacle of the journalist and everything about that. I don't want to get into that, but let's get into the race itself. The qualifying round was quite shambolic for him. He wasn't able to even get into Q3. And guess who knocked him out? Arvid Lindblad, the guy from the sister team in Racing Bulls, qualified ahead of him. Even Hajar qualified ahead of Max Verstappen right there in the qualifying rounds, getting into Q3. So he started at 11th. That was why he started way back after the top 10 right there. But what is going on at Red Bull? Why is it that they've not been able to get things outrightly for themselves? Questions needs to be asked. Is Lauren Mekis the right man for Red Bull right now? Because if you want to cast your mind back to the days when Red Bull were the A team from last season, basically, you could see that Christian Horner, he had his authority stamped in this team. This is 3 races in already, and it seems that nothing is changing at the Red Bull side. What exactly is going on? Is it that Lauren Mekis doesn't really have what it takes to push this team forward, or probably the team have not been able to get the perks of the new engine, the new regulation? Well, they work on that Ford right now, so it's Red Bull Ford right now, no longer Honda. What do you think is going on at Red Bull? Is it an administrative issue? Is it the drivers not coming to the party? Why are they still falling behind the pecking order this season? Let me know your thoughts concerning that, because I myself can't really pinpoint, or probably I say Lauren Mekis is not just the man for the team. Well, it's just 3 races in, and we expect upgrades and tweaks with the car and more understanding of the new regulations to still come true along in the season. Already with the win that Kimi got today, already it changes the dynamics of the standings for the drivers. So right now, Kimi Antonelli tops the driver standings with 9 points as against his teammate right there in second. That's George Russell in second position in that place. And already, like I said earlier in the video, it makes Kimi Antonelli the first ever driver to lead the championship standings. That's brilliant for him. At 19 years, he's doing all of this. Just have to give it up for the man. He also had a very, very bad start because he started the race at P1, and as the race progressed into turn 1, he found himself around 5th, 6th position in that. So you just have to look at it that it's one thing for you to have a good car, it's another thing for you to push the car to do great things. More like maximizing the potential of your car. I think that's one thing that Kimi needs to watch out for, because at some point when the other teams get to pick up, you can't just lose position places and you are thinking that you're going to catch up later. I mean, I already have my reservations about the new rules, and probably let me just chip it in. What do you think about these new rules and the batteries that they get to charge along the race, intermittent overtaking? Is that one thing that you're really happy to see this season with 3 races in already? Because it still doesn't sit well with me that after an overtake, but few seconds back, there's another overtaking from a driver in that case, which was not the case last season. Of course, it's because of the new rules and co. And drivers having to wait for their batteries to be charged before they can make lunges. It just doesn't sit well with me in that. So let me know your thoughts and your take concerning the new rules so far, because right now we're about to have a lengthy break of 1 month. I'll get into that, but 2 things that caught my attention this weekend has to be the Japanese fans. You just have to give it to them. The Japanese fans came out in their numbers, and how creative and colorful they were. I mean, you could see that We saw three kids, all from Friday, dressed up as Max. One dressed up as Lando and the other dressed up as Leclerc. And two of the drivers were able to meet with these kids. It was quite brilliant to see how this, ensued. And we saw fans, coming in their creative heart of the cars. It was so beautiful to see. And also, the fans coming out for their own Yuki Tsunoda. And it's one thing I want to also highlight. I feel Yuki Tsunoda doesn't deserve to be a reserve driver. I feel he's one man that is meant to be in a team driving actively right now than just being a reserve driver for Red Bull. His demeanor showed that this past weekend, whenever the cameras pan on him, of course he was going to just, let out a little smile, but deep down you just know that he feels disappointed that he can't race in front of his home fans right there in Suzuka. Quite disappointing for him. I feel he could have been left in his Racing Bulls team than just, moving around from Red Bull and, how everything has been able to ensue so far. But hey, big ups to Yuki Tsunoda. And in the fan zone, he was able to still have that moment with the fans, and the fans were chanting his name. Oh, Yuki Tsunoda. So the whole of April is going to be without an F1 action. It's going to be a buffer for a lot of F1 fans out there because the season just started, and you could see already we're having breaks of up to a month, and it's not even the summer break yet. For those who don't know why the break is coming up, is because the Bahrain and the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix for this season had to be, put on hold. We don't know if it's totally cancelled, but they will not hold this April. So we don't know what the FIA are coming up with, that probably a tweak or a change in the calendar anytime soon. But for now, it's not going to be holding this period in April. So that's why we have that lengthy break in April. Nothing has been able to be substituted, and there's not going to be F1 action for the whole of April until the 1st of May, where we get to see action again, and that will be at the Miami Grand Prix, and it comes with a sprint, so you just have to keep your fingers crossed for that. But in between this long break, you could guarantee yourself that teams will go back into the paddock and do all of their background checks, try to understand the new rules better, have upgrades to their team, and understand why they've not been able to perform well, how they can improve, and possibly changes for the other teams. For instance, Aston Martin, I don't know what is still going on right there. Probably they're still dealing with the administrative issue. It's still the same issue battling them. Lance Stroll had to retire the car. Well, Alonso was able to complete the race this time around. So Aston Martin is one team a whole lot of people have eyes on because of the man that they have right there in the paddock section, talking about Adrian Newey. And, the whole shenanigan going around about the team right there, and with the new power unit that they have, which is Honda. Anyway, let's see how things pan out for them, and then we hope that things get well for the team. We hope to see something great from these teams after the long break. So for 1 month, no Formula One action, but you could expect upgrades from all of these teams and probably updates from any of the teams so far. 3 races in already. What has been your highlight of the season, from Australia down to China and now the Japanese Grand Prix? Let me know your thoughts and your opinions concerning any of that in the comment section. So that's it. Basically, no much drama in the Japanese Grand Prix. It was just decent race all through the 53 laps that we saw, until you get to see me again for the preview of the Miami Grand Prix. So do well to have for yourself a lovely break in Formula One. I know it's quite sad that we're not going to be seeing action for the next 1 month, and but we know when the races are back, it is back fully right there. So we'll be back in Miami for the race itself, and it comes with a sprint, like I said earlier. So do well to have for yourself a great time and keep up with the action. There's definitely going to be updates concerning Formula One. I don't think it's going to be outrightly dead. Of course, we're not going to be seeing races, but teams will come out with news and all of the back and forth that we've been able to see so far. So have yourself a great time. Cheers.